So good morning, everyone. Welcome. Connie Burke from OASAS. I'm going to give the OASAS folks a chance just to introduce themselves. I want to make sure that you also know who our program management staff are and so on. So I'm going to ask Debbie Davis to introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Deborah Davis, and I'm the Associate Commissioner for the Division of Fiscal Administration.
Morning.
Andrew?
Hello, I'm Andrew Heck. I'm the Director of the Bureau of Strategic Planning and Evaluation, or Assessment at OASAS.
And Lucia.
Hi, I'm Lucia Perfetti-Clark. I'm the Project Director for the Opioid Settlement Fund.
Great. So we've had a lot of activity over the last couple of weeks. The last time we were together, we were talking about the regional abatement and making dollars available to the LGUs and our process that we were going to share in terms of the reporting that we needed, the payment process, and so on. We did post a document to explain the process and to talk about the availability of funds to the Opioid Settlement Fund Initiatives page on our OASAS website. So if you don't have it bookmarked, please do so, because there's going to be additional information coming, I'm sure. So good to have that bookmarked, and we're also adding information, like I said. So one of the things that I don't think it's posted yet, but we've already started a frequently asked questions document that we're going to continue to update on the process. So a great resource for folks. And then two, in terms of reporting and even managing in terms of expenses and so on, reporting expenses information will be posted there. So I wanted to have a chance to circle back with everyone to be able to answer questions now that you've had a chance to kind of digest the guidance document and also have a chance to think about the reporting. Some folks actually have already submitted their plans, which is exciting for us to have those start coming in. We did target March 14th or 15th, I think, as the date to have them into us. Lucia, other things about the process or recaps that we should provide before we start opening it up to questions?
No, so that was the 15th, and so, just so people don't panic, some of you some folks on the call are possibly from other litigating entities. So while we did ask the LGUs to please give us a contact information point for your OLEs, we did go ahead and do our best to find what's in the public domain as somebody who would be a good contact for that other litigating entity, but please still go ahead and fill that out for us. I don't think we can have too much contact information for folks at these places. So the other litigating entities, even if you have not submitted your plan, have already heard from us. So don't be alarmed. We kind of did that on our own so that they would have as much sort of lead time and ability to begin working on their items as well.
Mm-hmm. So Lucia, thank you for reminding me. And sometimes when you're in something, you're so in the weeds, you forget to pull back and provide a little context. So we have included and invited to the call today, obviously the LGUs to be able to answer questions. We know that there are dollars going directly to LGUs from the settlement. We also invited the 5 large cities. So you may recall that as part of the abatement, I'm going to not remember somebody, but Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, and Yonkers are all getting dollars directly. So OASAS is contracting directly with the 5 large cities and making the dollars available to them. And then the third group we have are the other litigating entities. So the cities, towns, and villages, that small cities, towns, and villages, as it's put, are also receiving dollars directly. And so we did agree that for those, the LGUs would serve as a pass-through so that OASAS would be sending the LGU abatement as well as the dollars for the other litigating entities to the county, and then the county would pass those dollars on to the OLEs. So, you know, a lot of moving parts, and, you know, we did include the OLEs here. We did have on the report form that we made available to you through FormStack a request for contact information for the OLEs. Realizing that, you know, if we got the reports from you on mid-March, then we wouldn't be able to contact the OLEs until thereafter. We got antsy, so we started pulling together contact information for the OLEs as well. So if you have good, you know, if you have information you can share and include in your report, we'll take it. I think more contacts is always better than less. So we're still happy to collect that information from you. So two, we had to kind of establish the process in terms of reporting and how we're getting notifications. I know that Lucia is building out and has included in the frequently asked questions kind of the steps in terms of how the dollars are made available and how to make notifications. As an example, when we receive the report on use of funds from the other litigating entities, we will then send the dollars to the LGU, notify, I believe, Lucia, catch me if I'm lying, we'll be notifying the OLEs that we've sent the dollars to the LGU, and then the LGU will pass the dollars on, and the OLEs can confirm that they've received their dollars. So there's some steps in the process. We want to make sure it's a clear process, so we're documenting all of this kind of step by step so that we're all on the same page. Am I ready to open it up to questions? I know Steve already has one, so why don't we go ahead?
Oh, Connie.
Sure.
I just wanted to also introduce Kristen Lynch, if you want to wave. She is going to be part of my team, and she's going to be the project coordinator, who's also going to be a point person. So that OSF project management email that you all should have received your initial request to submit your plan through. Mainly Kristen and I will be manning that inbox for the LGU items or the regional abatement items. So just to put a name with a face, and if you ever want to, you know, have a conversation or something like that, we are who you'll be talking to.
Thank you, and my apologies to Kristen for not giving her an opportunity to introduce herself. We're growing our staff, right? So you forget. I've been like, oh my gosh, you know, there's just a couple of us, but we're adding some resources to help get this done. So welcome, Kristen, as part of the team. Kristen just started last week, I think, right? Is that right? Already a week. There you go, Kristen. She's still here. That's a good sign. So you can either raise your hand or enter a question in the chat. Steve, you've been so patient. Dr. Giordano, do you have your question ready?
Morning, Connie. Thank you. Hello to you and your team. I appreciate what you're doing. This is, you know, obviously important discussion. I just wanted to kind of remind myself of where we left off, and what I remember you saying and what I've told my people in Albany County is that this March 15th document is a non-binding preliminary outline of our direction, specific if we can be, but it can be a preliminary kind of outline.
Absolutely, that is absolutely true. We wanted to have, first of all, ensure that we have communication back and forth. We're using that report process just as kind of our acknowledgement that we're entering into this process together, and using that to kind of trigger that payment, right? The release of dollars to the LGU. You have not had enough time to actually plan and figure out how you want to use these dollars. Of course, we realize that. Of course, you want to have conversations with your stakeholders, and it's a process, right? I mean, you've got dollars, you need to figure out how you're going to use them. So non-binding, it's more to acknowledge that we're entering into this process together, and a mechanism or just a trigger point for us to make those dollars available to you.
Thanks, Connie.
So, and I see Andrew Heck is on. I'm sorry. So if you don't have your camera on, I can't like register. So Andrew Heck, oh, you did introduce yourself, didn't you, Andrew? You guys, we've been going since 8 o'clock this morning, nonstop, and you can tell I'm already, you know, losing it here. Question came in through the chat. When working with providers in the community to provide some approved services, can they ask for 10% administrative fees? Debbie, do you want to answer that one?
So the money is provided to you all to determine, how you're going to use it and what is the best way to follow the requirements set forth by the settlement agreements. But we're not setting restrictions because each of you have your own procurement rules. You each already have your rules of what you provide as agency admin on a regular basis. So that we would assume, I guess, that you would follow those rules that you've already been following. I hope that answers the question.
A question on what form is needed for us to send in to release the funds? Lucia?
I had typed a response in there, but so the form is unique to the category that you are in. So the LGUs received a link to the LGU form, the OLEs received a link to the OLE form, the 5 cities received a link to the 5 cities form. However, the video that was included in the email that you received with your link to the form will provide you a preview of what the form looks like, which is very high level, 10 buckets, but it gives you the starting point of your individual dollar amount, your unique dollar amount. So the form will help you do the math along the way. I did have a provider or an LGU sort of ask, hey, we know we've got this chunk of money. Can we put that there? And then how do we decide the rest? Yes, as Connie said, you're allowed to move dollars between categories after you submit the plan to us. So really the plan is a sketch and an outline, and then you have a timeline that you need to upload. And then you attest that you understand that these dollars are not meant to supplant already budgeted dollars. And then you submit the form. When you submit it, I get all of those things together in a package. So your package is complete when you send it. Debbie and Andrew want to hop in here.
Yeah, so I also want to just say, because I know the question's coming from the police chief. So these funds are being released to the town of Chicawanda. So the town has to determine how they're going to use the funds. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands sort of the process is that whoever our contact is for the town, then the town will make whatever procurement available, and then people will be able to apply directly to the town. So I just wanted to make sure that that kind of process is understood as well.
I just wanted to add too that the video was based on the LGU form, so there are a couple parts of it that won't apply to the OLEs, the cities, but most of it will. I mean, the heart of it really will. So that's why we didn't record 3 videos, because the sort of meat of it, what people really want to see, you can get from watching the LGU form. Just for example, like the LGU, if an LGU has an OLE in their county, the LGU form will ask for contact information. Obviously, that doesn't apply to OLEs and the 5 cities, so that part isn't relevant. But everything else is the same. Just don't let, if you watch the video, don't let that part throw you.
But hopefully that video too has been helpful to folks. We have gotten some feedback that there's some utility in watching the video. So if you haven't, you may want to do that. Debbie, do you still have something to say? Your hand's up. I want to make sure I'm not missing you. Okay.
No, but I will just say that I have another call at 11:30, so I apologize. I'll be leaving this call early. That's all. Just let people know. I'll just slip away.
Thank you. Other questions that folks have? Are people finding the process clear enough and able to move things along? I see a couple of heads shaking, so that's good.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Okay, so this might not be a very long call, actually. I mean, maybe we've done a good job in actually maintaining communication and sharing information. Let's see here. So William Penman, I see your hand up.
I just have a quick question. So you're not looking for any narrative. You're just looking for that chart to be filled out with estimated costs. Now the timeline looks like it's already filled in. How do we add our own timeline, or we go by this?
Yeah, so I will say different folks have done, we've received 9. So 9 of your colleagues have felt like, you know, they could hit submit. Some timelines sent to us are kind of just that rough sketch that we provided. And then other timelines were more detailed, were, you know, really it should be a tool that you use to guide you for your own planning purposes as we begin to move through this calendar on a yearly basis.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And one of the things that I had said in one of our earlier meetings, so in terms of kind of like the annual reporting, so we're also looking at the timeframes that we need to abide by in terms of reporting out. So, and also in the, I'm not sure if it's the settlement or the legislation of the statute that says that we need to collect reporting from any entities that receive dollars by August 1st. So know too that we are going to be maintaining that, you know, that date as kind of our annual update, our annual collection of information, or by that date we'll need information from you. Two, that will help inform the report that the board issues in November. So November 1st, the Opioid Settlement Fund Advisory Board needs to issue their report. So we will be working through that process. And again, I appreciate people's patience over the coming months in terms of kind of figuring this out and getting a process in place for us to move forward. So in terms of what additional reporting we'll need, that is to be determined, and we will be in communication with you and talk with you about that. But for now, these are the tools that we're using to collect information from you. Let's see. The Cheektowaga Police Chief has his hand up, and I know that you are there with your town manager and your finance person. So, question?
Hi, Ms. Clark. This is John Dujak. We spoke on the phone. Whoever's hosting it. I may be making this more difficult, but is it simply filling out Appendix E and sending it in? Because I'm not seeing any other attachments.
So I guess I have a question, because the named entity is the town of Cheektowaga, and wouldn't that be the executive of the town, and the town treasurer would receive the funds in the as the named entity?
Correct. But we've been tasked with trying to figure this process out, and I'm trying to determine what document we actually need to fill out and send in. Is it Appendix E and sign and sign?
There's a link to an electronic form in the email that went out yesterday. So when you click on the link, that's the form.
But we'll need documentation that the signatory has agreed to have their department fill it out.
Okay, thank you.
So you may be looking at the document that we posted online that kind of explains the process. And there were appendices, there are appendices in that document that speak to the report format that utilizes the 10 categories that we ask you to allocate money into. And then there's also a screen capture of the timeline that we ask you to complete. So that may be what you're referring to. I can't remember which is E in that document. But that was just for demonstration purposes. And as Lucia said, you actually received a link to an electronic web-based form to complete in our attempt to try to make things easier. And if you all haven't received that link, or if you have questions, please don't hesitate to email the OSF Project Management mailbox, or you've been in touch with Lucia already, perhaps she can circle back with you after this meeting to ensure that you have the link and the information you need.
You guys look at stuff.
Okay, will do. There's a question in the chat. Upon plan receipt and expected approval, when do you think the funding will flow to the LGU for distribution? Debbie Davis.
Well, you all have the process, right? So the process is that you hand in your form, it then gets reviewed, and once that is approved, it gets sent over to our budget department. It then gets entered into our payments, our budget system, and then it gets sent to payments. So it could be anywhere from a week to 3 weeks before the payment is finalized, because even once we enter the payment, then, it's the statewide financial system and the release of funds through the Office of the State Comptroller. So I would say between a week to 3 weeks once your plan is approved. Now, I can't say from the date of receipt, but close.
Right. We're going to try to make that as close as we can. Kim Saunders, your hand is up.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm just following up on a question regarding time frames. I saw the answer that there is no constraint, there's no limitation on the funding time frame. Does that mean it doesn't have to be used in which the year it was awarded? It can be rolled over consecutively, so we're kind of outside of the OASAS rules. Okay, I see lots of heads nodding. I like that. That's new for us here. Also, is there going to be any concise documentation that summarizes the percentage breakout for each of the entities in that region so that we can be assured of thinking ahead in long-term planning? Right now, we're kind of taking a stab in the dark with Kim sort of math. I'd like OASAS math to do that.
Yeah. So I'm excited because I know exactly what you're talking about. And this was a point that Debbie Davis raised and thought we should articulate in the questions and answers. So if you take the amount that you received this year and you divide that by the amount allocated for your region, it will give you a percentage. So you will be able to determine what your percentage was of the regional amount. We are saying that you can then take that same percentage and then multiply it by the regional abatement amounts that you see in the table that's included in the Opioid Settlement Advisory Board report. I think it's page 284. You can then apply that percentage to the regional amount for each year of abatement, and it will give you a rough idea of how much money you're going to get. I say rough because there are additional settlements. We may see additional money come in, so maybe you'll be a little bit more. We also recognize this, we still have 16 years to go, right? And we identified 3 indicators to use as part of our calculation. If folks don't mind muting their phone, I'd appreciate it. So too, if we make changes if we make changes to the formula, or 2, we're also going to, periodically refresh the data that's used to do the calculation. So, that might tweak things a little bit. That's why I say it's a rough estimate.
See it as in the help.
That's a really long explanation to answer your question.
And you said that will be in the FAQs?
We will add it to the FAQs, sure. Yes,
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. There were some other hands up. Steve, your hand's up again. You're on mute.
All right. Between March 15th and August 1st, do you want us to be updating our document as we become more firm on some of the elements, or will the preliminary plan suffice until we give you our report in August?
Yeah, so we're going to actually use the August report as a way of finding out how you finally, what your final determination was for use of funds. We also are going to ask about what your actual spend down was, which we recognize may not be great because of the amount of time you have, but the amount that's been spent down. And then 2, we'll have information on the abatement for 2024, right? So that's another thing. you know, so you're given this money, you know, you're going to use it, and then before you know it, we're going to be notifying you of additional dollars that are going to be made available to you. So, so we're trying to come up with a planning, a reporting process to kind of account for the fact that, you know, as you're reporting out on money, you're getting more money, there'll be some carryover, and how you're using that going forward.
Thanks, Connie.
Sure. So we answered the question on funding. Thank you. Lucia also entered that in the chat. Yeah, in terms of future year funding, as I said, we know that you will be getting funding for another 16 years. If you refer to the regional abatement page in the opioid settlement fund, in the opioid settlement fund advisory board report, you'll be able to see that information. And actually, we did specify that in the Q&A document. So if you're like, hey, what page did she say? You'll be able to go to the Q&A and you'll be directed. So Ashley, I'm not sure what you asked that we say again. Hopefully that was it.
I'm good. So, it was in regards to the formula.
Okay. So another 16 years of funding. So know that we're going to be looking at each other, talking to each other, planning, spending, communicating for another 16 years on this. So again, I do expect that, you know, over the next, you know, 8 months, we're really going to be ironing out the process, and hopefully we'll have a good process in place that will continue to have things run smoothly for the additional years that we'll be working on this. And that way, you know, for some of us who might not make it through 16 years, at least we'll have a process in place we can pass on, right?
Let's all be hopeful.
Other questions that folks have? So I'm feeling good in that there aren't too many questions. So that's telling me that we're sharing good information, we're communicating, and we're moving in the right direction on this. All right. So if folks do have questions, don't forget you've got the Opioid Settlement Fund Project Management mailbox. Oh my gosh, too many mailboxes. And we're asking that you submit your plan by the 15th. Just to reiterate, once we get your plan and we approve it, that will then trigger the process for information to be entered into SFS and the payment generated, recognizing that the SFS system will take a little bit. So it would be 1 to 3 weeks of turnaround time on getting the dollars actually to you. All right, if other litigating entities have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you, Lucia, for putting the mailbox address in the chat. Maybe folks want to put that on a sticky note so that they can refer to it as needed. Please visit the Opioid Settlement Fund Initiatives section of the OASAS webpage for information. We will post there and update regularly, or as regularly as we have information to share. Glad we had this check-in. I think that it's just good to check in and say hi, make sure that we're all on the same page. So we took a half hour rather than an hour today. If folks want to stay on and do a half-hour-long icebreaker, I know that Lucia knows a number of them if we want to spend our time that way, but I'm assuming not. So thanks so much. We'll continue to be talking with you about this whole process. We're very eager to get the dollars into your accounts, and I hope you all have a great weekend. Take care.